My name is Stephanie Watson, and this is my final for Assessment and Evaluation class, RSS 3001, and it's a proposal on the UREC Hikes program. So to begin, just the table of contents, we'll have the introduction, background of the program, research question, purpose, rationale, literature review, gaps within the literature, ethics, methods, timescale, and then ending off with the conclusion references. So to begin the introduction, there are 5 P's when looking at evaluating a program within the recreation field: need, design, process, impact, and economics. This proposal will look at the program economics in relation to the impact of the program. So just a little background of the program. UREC Hikes is a series of 4 hikes, 1 per week, over the duration of a month, with location changing every week. Hikes can accommodate anywhere from 4 to 12 hikers and can range from first-time hikers to experienced hikers. Participants can come 1 week or multiple times during the duration of the program. So the research question that I have chosen for this study is the program cost reasonable relative to the impacts that it has on the participants? Cost will be defined in relation to aspects such as monetary value and time. This could be time away from studies, work, or family. And impact will be defined in relation to aspects such as the difference in self-esteem, teamwork skills, leadership skills, and hiking skills. The purpose of the study is to evaluate the impact that the UREC hiking program has and if it is relevant to the cost of the program. The research will be looked at not only from the participants' point of view, but also from the organization's standpoint financially. Looking at these aspects will determine if the impact made on the participants is significant enough to outweigh the overhead costs of the program, and ideally if it is worth the cost to both the organization and the participants to continue to offer the program in the future. The rationale for doing this study. The main reason for doing the study is to find ways to improve the program and to increase participation in the program. Program economics and impact are highly connected with these and will hopefully give a clear picture of what participants think of the program and if they'll return again. If they are not, finding out why and how these issues can be solved in the future will be beneficial to the program. If participants or the consumers are satisfied with the program, then in return they'll hopefully continue on with the program week after week or even year after year if they continue to offer it. There's many different sources that I looked at in the literature, but these are the 3 that I wanted to point out indirectly relating to this. The first one, the organization needs to be sure that there's a need for the program and if there's a demand of people who are willing to pay for it and can afford the rate at which the service is being provided for. This is directly related to UREC hikes because if they don't have that market of people who are wanting to go on hikes and who are willing to pay to go on this guided hike, then they won't have anyone coming to their program. Secondly, to truly determine the impact, interviews should be done before and after the activity to determine the differences in the 2. This one I really liked, and I have put my studies in this format, as you will see later on, in the way that I am surveying both before and after the hikes to try to determine the impact that it had on the participants. And lastly, one of the other key concepts that was provided in the literature was that the programs with larger group sizes tend to have more significant impact on the participants and an overall positive experience. So in saying this, by increasing the amount of participants allowed on the hikes, it could create more income for the organization while also increasing the impact on the participants. This one change can make this program grow in many different aspects in both economic benefits and also the impact of the hikers, which will hopefully in return make them come back to the program again. However, there are some gaps in the literature. Gaps in the literature on this subject in the sense it is hard to find literature directly connected to impact and program costs in outdoor recreation programs. Literature is mostly designed around impact or economics of a program alone and not the 2 combined together, which is what I wanted to look at. And by conducting this research, it will hopefully start to give an insight to this topic that is not as well researched as often as other topics in this field. Also, another aspect that isn't researched as much is university students, which is UREC's main target for a lot of their programs just because it is located on campus. Ethics is very important, so before the surveys can be completed, or the interviews, the project needs to be approved by the ethics board at UNB. This will ensure the study will in no way harm the participants of the study, since we are directly interviewing people. Participants will also sign a consent form to ensure the data they are giving will be kept safe and confidential. And this will also give them more information, like if they would like to be taken out of the study at any time, they have the right to revoke their portion of the data. Even if their interview is completely done, they still have this right since it is their information they are giving. And lastly, the data will be stored in a secure location and then destroyed a year after the data has been collected. So the methodology for this study will be a series of semi-structured interviews done with participants from hikes before and after partaking in the hikes. The steps for the study, which I will talk about individually as the presentation goes on, will be choosing the appropriate data collection method, choosing the sample population, conducting the surveys, and coding and analyzing the data. So I chose qualitative research for my project. So qualitative research will be the best fit for the study since it's a small sample size that we're dealing with, more in-depth responses to questions, and since we're not sure of the answer to the research question already, it will give us more information on these interviewers. Within this, semi-structured interviews will be conducted. So this is a series of questions with prompts and is more specific type of interview than open-ended, but gives the participants the opportunity to fully express their thoughts on the program. And the framework for the study will be pre-experiment design, and within this one group, pre-test, post-test will be used. I chose this because I would want to evaluate the difference between before and after the hike and determine the impact that it had on the participants. So choosing the sample, each week 4 participants will be chosen randomly from the hike and asked to be part of the study. This will be a total of 16 participants interviewed by the end of the 4-week study. However, this could vary depending on how many people are on the hikes each week. There might not be 4 participants on a given week, and also there might not be 4 participants willing to be involved in the study within the duration of the program. So this 16 could be skewed slightly by the end of the study. So for the survey, interviews will be composed right before the hike and after the hike each week for the duration of the 4-week program with the different groups. But the post-hike survey might be the day after or a couple days after, depending on when the participants are available to meet for the interview. Semi-structured interviews with participants will be conducted, as I mentioned before, and the purpose of this survey is to get their feedback on the program in relation to economics and impact. So this will allow the interviewer to start to adapt the questions over the first couple with the semi-structured interviews. And this will help give the research to know the types of questions to ask more of and what prompts receive the best responses to elaborate on those for the coming interviews. So this is an example of the pre-hike survey. So there's just a couple different questions, but the most important one will be how would you rate your self-esteem, teamwork skills, leadership skills, and hiking skills on a scale of 1 to 10. And then this will be then asked again in the post-hike survey, to give an idea of the impact that it had on the participants. So here is an example of post-hike survey. So as I talked, the questions based on impact as well. Lots of different questions on that. Just how do you feel what do you feel you took away from this hike? And then the questions on the self-esteem, teamwork skills, leadership skills, and hiking skills, which is how we were determining impact. Also the questions based on cost. And there's multiple ones on that. Just how did you find the cost of the program? If it was reasonable. How is it compared to other programs they've been to? Was it too much, too little? And questions such as, were there any time constraints for them coming to go on the hike? So analyzing the data. The recorded interviews will be then transcribed after the interviews have been completed. These documents will then be coded using the Miles and Huberman framework for specific keywords to determine the views of the participants on impact and the cost of the program. In using this method, the findings will then be analyzed to determine the magnitude of the impact for the participants in comparison to the economic constraints that it has on both the participants and the organization. So now we have our timescale for the study. The timescale for this research study will be approximately 2 months. Appropriate time will be given for each of the 6 stages throughout the progression of the study. And seen in the chart below, there will be progression from the start of the research, which will be done, and then until the end, which will be a result in presenting back to UREC on the findings of the study. This is very important because UREC ideally needs to get the information on how this went, and it will give them better ideas on how to improve the hike program in the future. As lastly, our conclusion. So this study will help find ways to bring more people and students to the program. They'll help increase income for the program, and overall give more research to UREC about ways they can not only improve this program, but other programs based around the university students in the future. These are my references, and thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful Christmas.